Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective, John Tran in the building. We're back.
Yes, sir.
A little hiatus there, guys. My bad. Had some personal things to take care of. As you see all my teams here, we've been on the struggle bus recently, and it's got a brother a bit depressed.
We're not on the bus though. we're just behind it. We drag it.
Not even on the bus. Oh man, yeah. It's been. Shout out to my boy Connor who reached out and was like, "How are you doing it, man? How can you be a fan of all these suck ass teams?" And it's just,
That's what makes you a fan, man.
It's what makes us a fan, right? The good and the bad. So right now, it's a lot of bad, but hopefully some good will come our way soon. Before we get started, because we have some, initial bowl thoughts to get to, some more of the coaching developments at Texas, and then we're going to wrap here with our thoughts on all of the bowl games, including the college football playoffs. Before we get there, we want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Boss's Ranch. Guys, HEB Cold Produce. These guys, not only do they make a phenomenal ranch product, but they're a whole lot of fun. Go check them out on social media. We'll have all the links below. They make some really cool YouTube, Instagram videos. Guys are in competitions. They have taste tests. And those of you who have bought the bottle and then continue to message me, and I've also heard from you who have said, hey, I can't find it at HEB. Please send us that feedback so I can get it over to those guys. But we love ourselves, Boss's Ranch. We appreciate them sponsoring our content here. So, Tran, we got the Alamo Bowl against Utah.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, what are your thoughts? Are you excited?
I'm extremely excited, actually, about
Why are you excited for this game?
Because we are going to be facing a team that was on the brink of a playoff berth. If it wasn't for them getting dominated by Oregon, they would have been in the playoffs. Honestly, if they would have won out, they would have been in the playoffs. With that said, we get to play a team that's on the brink of a top 10 seed, and we get to play. It'll be like a home game for us, but with all the noise around it, I hope the team can block noise around, of course, the coaching stuff. Sure. We can block that out, and we can come ready to play a highly rated caliber team. So that's why I'm extremely excited about it. Plus, one of the coaches that we're thinking about interviewing will be playing against us, so that'll be a little bit interesting as well, too.
I'm excited as well, and I've heard some fans complain today talking about, we're only going to go to San Antonio from Austin and that whole thing. And I believe, when's the last time we played in the Alamo Bowl? Was it when Marcus Mariota sparked us?
Yeah.
Was that Mac Brown's last game?
Mac Brown's last game.
Yeah, so we haven't been back there since. It is a great bowl to go to. It's a New Year's Eve bowl. And look, we were 7-5.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can't be picky here, right? You're 7-5. And that's the thing. It's like you're 7-5. Yeah, you're not going to Disney World or anything like that, but you're playing in a decent bowl game against a very, very high level opponent.
The second-rated Pac-12 team,
and a team that's been very good defensively all year. Yes, Oregon took it to them in the conference title game, but Utah, this isn't going to be a situation where they're not going to be motivated to be in the game or anything like that. Utah, they haven't been in front of the national audience a whole lot, and they've been a victim of their time zone, if you will, in a lot of cases. But playing against Texas in a game like this, it's going to be great reps for our kids. Great opportunity for them against a big name opponent to shut somebody up and end the season on a high note, potentially 12-2 for them. And they have, Utah's a very professional program, in my opinion. They're not going to be like the folks we faced last year where you're going to come crying about, well, we didn't really want to be there. We didn't prep our best and talk all that noise. They're going to show, they're not going to make excuses. They're going to show up.
Are you talking about the fans or
I'm talking about the fans and the people around the Georgia football. Some of the folks around the Georgia football.
Because I was going to give a shout out to their coach. What's his name again? I want to say Mark Richt, but it's not Mark Richt.
Who? Oh, Kirby Smart.
Kirby.
Yeah.
He actually came forward and said that's ridiculous. They outmanned us. He came forward.
Yeah,
and said
I'm not
that.
talking about. I'm talking about like Utah people. They're not going to be like, well, we got bummed. And if I see that, we call them out, right? Like, let's play. Like, this is a bowl game. This, like I said, opportunity to get reps. As a Texas fan, as a Texas program, we're already in 2020. We were in 2020 during the Texas Tech game. Let's be honest.
Yes, we were.
We were in 2020 during the Texas Tech game.
That's why we saw a whole bunch of wide receivers on the field that hadn't cracked the playing time at all. Man.
So we're already trying to figure out. No, coaches here or not, interim coaches, all that doesn't matter. Reps are reps, right? We got all these extra practices now. It's an opportunity. Also the All-American Army Bowl will be in town that same time, so you'll be in front of some other kids. It's a lot of opportunities and showcase for both of these programs going into this football game. So, I mean, early, I believe we're 6.5-point underdogs, which sounds about, one could argue maybe more, especially with us firing our defensive coordinator coming into this game. But I'm excited to prep and break down Utah. I've watched them sparingly throughout the year. We did watch the Pac-12 championship.
Your thoughts on the two top 25 teams that they played that they lost to?
So it was USC and Oregon?
Those are the only two top 25 teams that they played.
Well,
and they lost.
I mean, the thing is, when you look at that, I personally feel it's a talent. That's where the talent level starts to play into it, right? And again, I'm not trying to disrespect Utah right off the bat.
No. And I'm not. I'm just asking. What's
when
your
you
thought
start
process?
to look at
does that factor into the?
I think athletically, some of that has factored in it. Like just watching the Oregon game as a casual fan who had seen Oregon play a lot more than I'd seen Utah play. I've seen Oregon's like recruiting classes, like Thibodeau and Herbert and Bardell and all those guys on Oregon. I'm like, and then some of these Utah kids they're all out and they got some big kids up front, but they looked a little slow at times.
Watch a video that Acho posted. There's a video where he even says, and he's like, you have to watch it multiple times. But it surprised me too because, like you said, Utah recruits a lot of big athletes that don't get pushed around. Well, this certain play, the offensive line on Oregon pancaked every one of their men.
It was like a 4th and 2, or something like that.
Every one of their men, and that actually shocked me. So I mean, if you want to see, like I guess the talent gap that you were talking about right there, I guess look at it there.
But if you're Utah and you keep hearing that narrative,
it's
you're
fire.
coming into a game against Texas. Because I don't know was USC ranked at the time that they played. I don't remember.
I think I just saw that.
I know they're ranked. They're ranked right
that
as of today, but I don't know if USC was ranked at that time. I don't think so. But my point is, when they're playing like the big name schools and whatnot, this is going to be motivation for them to kind of dispel that notion. Hey, you guys are awesome against the mid-tier programs and the folks in your conference, and you guys are buttoned up against them until you're facing the USCs and the Oregons of the world. Or, now if you're going against a Texas, what type of Utah program will show up? Or are you going to get, is it going to be another issue of athleticism or certain things? Like even offensively, like Tyler Huntley, solid quarterback, but he's not going to blow you away, right? Some of the, and these are just some of the things I know about them, watching them casually. But again, I'm excited. This is, early on, excited to break them down and get into our prep as we watch the tape and we get into, we'll do a full Alamo Bowl preview for it. But you alluded to something at the beginning of the conversation about the Utah defensive coordinator, Morgan Scaley, who is somebody who his name has popped up down here in Austin across many circles as a person of interest. A lot of fans who have it kind of targeted as possibly the guy. I think he's a Broyles candidate this year, along with like Alex Grinch and others that are involved.
Well deserved too, because at one point in the season, I think you and I were looking at it. We were looking at it, and he was number 1 in run defense, and they were number 7 in pass defense. So, it's not like he's doing in some joke conference or anything like that. He's doing it in a Power 5 conference that's actually has similar styles to the Big 12, where it's a good mixture of pro style and spread, and also up-tempo offenses as well. So it's not like he's just doing it against, FCS competition or anything like that. So I mean, it's well deserved, that honor of the Broyles Award. However, I mean, going back to your point about it, how he looked against Oregon, and Oregon dominating them at the line of scrimmage, that brings up a little red flag for me.
I'm not willing to judge a guy on one game. Everybody has bad games. Now, it's a bad game in the Pac-12 championship game,
yeah,
right? Where I think Vardell had over 200 yards rushing himself. And it's not even like Justin Herbert was dotting them up all over the place. It was really in the trenches, in the run game.
Yes.
And as a potential candidate for the job, that's something we struggled with at times this year on our Texas team, tackling, physicality, things of that nature. So when you're seeing it, again, and I've said this before, I'm saying it now if I hadn't said it before on camera. If you're going to fire Todd Orlando, you need to get the next person has to be an upgrade. Mm-hmm. It has to be an upgrade. It can't be, we come in and we see more of the same with a schematic shift.
Can I ask you I know you and I talked about this beforehand, but what was the main reason why Herman fired Todd Orlando?
Young guys, specifically the DBs, not being able to play man coverage, and not being able to play the ball in the air.
So do you know what position Morgan Scaley played in college?
What, safety?
He was a safety. He was an All-American safety. So I think that
having that background
win for him, that's a little feather in his cap right there, that he will be able to teach that deficiency that we have, because this has been going on for not just this past year, but it's been going on for a long time.
What do you think the chances are I think there's a possibility we may interview him. Mm-hmm. What do you think the chances are that he's actually a legit candidate and somebody that could be the University of Texas defensive coordinator?
10%.
I agree with you. And it might be lower. And I think so. I think that, and because this is going to lead me to my next point. I think that because I think he's going to stay in Utah.
I think he's going to either stay in Utah or try to take on Boise State if Harsin leaves.
Where's Harsin going to go?
I don't know. I was just reading somewhere that Harsin's looking for a bigger time school head coaching position. And, that would actually be a good spot for him to take over.
I've also heard some things about Morgan Scaley potentially being the head coach in waiting
for Utah.
Smart move.
I mean, it's just smart.
Now, and the thing is, he's never coached outside of Utah. Mm-hmm. That's home, right? And in that area, and even though they recruit all over, that's his base, right? Yeah. And people have talked about, well, he makes I think like $800K in Utah, the money we could offer him here in Texas. And I just want to inform Texas fans, because I've seen a lot of this. Money isn't everything. Money is a big part of it, but money really isn't everything, especially when you're talking about cost of living in certain situations and level of comfort. Like, I'm going to move my family from a situation where I know I have long-term job security. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, Utah is not, in terms of the allure and the program and the brand, it is not Texas. I think a Utah fan that's being objective would agree with us on that. However, I'm going to risk that all to come, yes, get a bigger paycheck for 1 year, mm-hmm. and I got to fix everything in 1 year.
Yep.
Because jobs are on the line, specifically the head coach. And I don't know, it's not like I've read a report saying Tom Herman's job is on the line, but this is kind of eerily similar to Charlie going into year 3 when he was trying to get Sterling Gilbert and at first Sonny Cumbie mm-hmm. from TCU. They couldn't get the money. Now, granted, that's where the situation is different. They didn't have an open checkbook then like they do now, and they kind of had to. Remember, Greg Fenves even had to get on the plane, and they had to go to Tulsa to get Sterling Gilbert and with Jeff Traylor. But I'm not saying it's that situation. But the pressure, there's no doubt that the pressure is on Tom Herman, at least from the fan base's perspective and the perceptions that's out there. Now, if Chris Del Conte has said something otherwise internally, then, and if that's communicated to said candidate, I would want affirmation of that. But we know how football goes. If I come in and something goes god awful with an injury or whatever, and we go 7-5, am I gonna get a second year?
Well, not only that. Say he does. Say our defense is just rock star. Say it goes back to. You remember when our offense, Garrett Gilbert, when our offense was terrible, but our defense was rock solid. They're fantastic. They were a championship caliber defense. Say you have that and you do turn it around, but yet you finish 7-5. Tom Herman's gone. I mean, the next coach is going to want to bring in his own people at that time too. So I mean, you're at a 1-year contract at that as well. So would you rather have that job security, or would you rather get paid like 50% more for 1 year?
And these are things that we don't know as fans, because I don't know what Morgan's aspirations are to be a head coach.
Of course.
I don't, even Graham Harrell, who we'll get to here in a second. Like, I don't know what and how quickly they want to be a head coach, because one of the things that I've heard is like, we want somebody to be here long term. But Tom Herman, and I'll never forget this, he said this when he got here, he wants assistants that I want everybody on my staff to have aspirations to be a head coach themselves one day. Because if I'm churning and developing these coaches, because part of the head coach's job is to do what? To develop the coaches, right? So if he's doing his job, which I think he would admit right now that he hasn't done a good enough job at, arguably failed with, if you're firing 2 coordinators in one off season, after a Sugar Bowl, 1 year removed from 10 wins in a Sugar Bowl, the next year you're firing the OC, you're firing the defensive coordinator. Guys, I know the OC was reassigned, but follow me here.
Yeah. No.
So you're 1 year removed from that. You're probably going to get rid of majority of the staff that's currently there prepping the bowl. What is the plan to develop these coaches to get them to where they want to be? We want to be a program. Yes, say Graham Harrell comes here. People are like, well, he might only be here a year or two, and then he might get it plucked for a head coaching job.
It's a perfect situation for what you just explained. Like, he's already interviewing for head coaching jobs right now.
Well, and allegedly he interviewed for the UNLV.
Yeah,
Graham Harrell, that is. So moving on to the offense, because I'll get back to the defense in a second. But the reason why I like Graham Harrell, because I know I threw out the point. Well, one may ask, well, Steve, if the concern is over job security, then who would ever even take the job? Looking at it from the question that Sterling Gilbert asked when Charlie came here. And I get that. Here's the thing, though. Graham Harrell is in a more advantageous position coming in with the offense. If you think about it, I'm coming in. If I can successfully install air raid at USC with a third-string quarterback, and we just rock and roll the way they did, then I got to feel pretty good about what I'm going to do at Texas. From a recruiting standpoint, I've got already a pipeline of quarterbacks that are committed, that I can, I don't care what type of quarterback you are, mobile, whatever, you're going to be excited to play in an air raid type of offense where you're really just going to be able to kind of freestyle and showcase and put up some numbers, right? So that's a sell. Air raid's very popular in the state of Texas. Graham Harrell's a former Big 12 player who threw for 10,000 plus yards in this conference, and we hated him for a long time for what he did to us. Right. Until he gets here, you're still hating.
Until he wins me a Big 12 championship, I don't like you.
Right. But he has conference ties. So we've talked a lot about the defensive guy. Well, does that person understand what it takes to play defense in this conference? Well, Graham Harrell understands what it takes to play offense in this conference. He's young. I like the infusion of youth. Now, we will have to pay for him.
Yeah, of course.
We will have to pay for him. But he's now done it at 2 different schools. What he did at North Texas was impressive. Gassing up the offense was a Mason Fine, all those guys over there.
I think they were top 15 offense.
Yep, and then going over to USC, top 5 passing offense last year with a third-string true freshman quarterback. That was like a 3-star. So you look at all those things, they're almost going to have three guys over 1,000 yards, or at least two guys over. Like, it's very, very impressive when you look at his resume, right, and what he can potentially bring to the table. I'm on board with the Graham Harrell hire. I said that in my previous video when Todd Orlando was fired. Now, going back to the defense, the name that we've heard that was reportedly interviewed by Orange Bloods was Chris Ash, who is currently an analyst at the school. And that one has been a lot more polarizing, if you will, right? So what are your thoughts in terms of Chris Ash potentially being the guy moving up from the analyst role, former Rutgers head coach?
So I know he had success at Ohio State. However,
and Wisconsin too.
Yeah, and Wisconsin, but more so Ohio State at a big level.
Mm-hmm. National champions.
We were told by Ohio State fans that it was Fickell's defense, right?
They were co-defensive coordinators.
Yeah, no.
I think Fickell was the one making the calls.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, he understands the concepts, and you got to actually see how a championship defense was run. However, the thing that I'm worried about is that he won, 8 games? Was it 8 games at
He
Rutgers?
went 8-32 at Rutgers or something. And it was go ahead.
And I understand it's a Power 5 conference, but 8-32 is just not going to get it done. And not only that, he's been on the staff currently, and you fire the head coach, and he was an analyst for that defensive coordinator. Yeah. And there were little adjustments made, but that was due to experience coming back within the team. So I don't know. I'm a little torn off of it. Like you said, this has to be a home run hire because honestly, this you have to. If you're firing someone who we thought was a pretty good D coordinator, the only knock against him was the playing the ball. You got to get someone who's going to knock it out the park for you.
So with Orlando, and I've been vocal about this, and I'm not gonna. I would have kept Todd Orlando one more year. I would have given him another chance. I think he is a good defensive coordinator. However, the blitzing from depth was a problem. The lack of development, you can't blitz from Egypt all the damn time, right? And then he didn't get rid of that. You have the issues with the defensive backs. We had the issues with not generating a pass rush the way those of us who watch Baylor OU, right? You see James Lynch and what Phil Snow and those guys are able to do with how effective they were able to get pressure on Jalen Hurts. Inside the pocket, outside the pocket with just 3 guys. Like, that's how you want your 3-3-5 to look. He couldn't make it look that way for us the past year and a half, I'd say, right? Now, we had some really good moments with Todd Orlando, in my opinion, that people seem to forget when he had the personnel that he needed, especially those linebackers. That was a problem. There were a lot of things that were really unfair to him that were out of his control.
Well, the sad thing is that I think he found his linebackers. I think he found a really good starting linebacker core of Overshown, Adai, and also
Joseph Osai.
I think that's his.
And
ideal.
that doesn't count to Gabriel Floyd.
Yeah, well, he's
right, but the thing is like he had all these. They had all these guys that they had brought in. Now, granted, I got to move off of that, right? Like, he's gone.
Yeah.
But to the Chris Ash thing. If that's the fallback plan because you guys have actually done proper vetting and you've gone out, you've sought after the Morgan scale, you've sought after whether it's John Heacock at Iowa State, the person that I would have probably reached out to, like somebody that was kind of exciting to me, was a Barry Odom, who was, if we're talking about fired former head coaches, I was more excited about Barry Odom, who was recently fired from Missouri, that did have a top 12 defense. And they were really, really good sound. Those y'all would have got your 4-man front there, but he's actually more of a multiple kind of guy. He coaches both. Unfortunately, with Barry Odom, I still think we could get a chance to interview him because he was like the favorite for the VTech job, and then they hired somebody else.
Yeah.
So, but now I'm hearing that he might be the front runner for the Memphis job since Mike Norvell went to Florida State. Yeah. So there's a lot of dominoes going on here. But to Texas credit, they are taking their time. It's not like they've rushed out and said right away. Because that would have concerned me if they interviewed Chris Ash, somebody that's already in-house, already on your staff. There's no rush there. But if they interviewed him like that last Thursday, I know Orange Bloods and 24/7 got into a pissing contest over what day they talked.
They interviewed.
Yeah. So, but whatever day they sat down, if they came out 24 hours later and were like, Chris Ash, our new defensive coordinator, that would have pissed me off.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, if you come out,
because they had a plan.
If you come out,
you're saying
around, I'd say around Christmas, and you're like, hey, we've done vetting, we've gone through it, we're corporate America, right? Mm-hmm. We sometimes have 2-3 interviews. We have our, kind of pulling down the candidates. Mm-hmm. You get and we thought out of these 3, yes, I know Chris Ash. And I know some people are going to say, well, you're doing the buddy thing again, Tom. You're getting your guy that you were comfortable with. No, we went through 3 phases of interviews, and every single time he's the guy, and he's the guy that wants to be here. He's the guy that we can get here, maybe at a little bit cheaper, and on top of that, we can build a real staff around him. We can go and get some of these guys that have gone off to the NFL. We can go get a Larry Johnson to coach the defensive line. Like there's some things that we can implement. And if you're selling me on that and you've done proper vetting, then I can work with it. I'm not going to be excited about it.
Yeah.
But I don't have to be excited about it. I want to win. And I'm cool with being wrong. It's just like the Tim Beck thing. Like when they brought Tim Beck here after the Ohio State stuff, I was very vocal. I'm like, that's not your guy. That's not the guy. I don't want Tim Beck. However, we've seen good, we've seen bad, and he obviously has been relieved of his duties as offensive coordinator. But there's also a reason why there's talk of him still being the QB coach, because he's been a hell of a recruiter.
Yep.
And there's value in that. He has a fantastic relationship with QB1, right? With Sam Ehlinger. Like he has done we have seen Sam progress over his time here from a developmental standpoint. He does have a great relationship with Quentin Jackson, right? And Hudson Card and all these guys that are coming in. So we have to be mindful of all those things. But at the same token, if Chris Ash is announced as the defensive coordinator, I'm not thrilled about it. And so I know people are going to come on here and say, why did Tran bring up the Rutgers head coach thing? Everything you do in football matters. I don't care.
You're graded off of everything.
You're graded off of everything. You don't just dismiss and I understand it's Rutgers. But why do we keep having to go to the well at Rutgers? You guys told me the same thing with Drew Maringer when he was the offensive coordinator and won one damn game and we hired him from freaking Rutgers. And then he comes here and you're like, oh, he's only going to be the wide receiver coach. He's not going to be the OC. So he's a young mind, blah, blah, blah. And then you see the disaster that became. So let's be mindful. And I know Drew did some good things in recruiting as well. Mm-hmm. But the internal stuff that happened here and the downhill turn we took in our progression of our passing game, that was on Drew Maringer as well. So I don't know why we always have to go to the well from Rutgers. Like,
I also want to kind of look at think a little bit outside the box and look at a D coordinator that has special team experience too. Because our special teams was lackluster.
It was terrible.
Yes, I was trying to be as nice as possible, but it was not good. I really had to think. Rod Babers on the Rodcast brought up the fact of,
Rod's been doing great work the last few weeks, by the way.
This was a while back. It's like, he goes, you know why Belichick is such a great mind? It's because he's coached at all 3 levels. He was a special teams coach. He was a defensive coordinator. He has experience calling plays as well for an offensive coordinator. So he said that's what makes him so special, is because he understands that those are the 3 keys to the game. You win all 3 of those, you're going to win the game. So us not having a special teams coordinator, it's not a good look. I mean, you have all these analysts, but you don't have someone dedicated to special teams.
And most staffs are going to have you're going to have to coach a position group on offense or defense and special teams because of the the NCAA allotment of it's either 10 or 11 coaches.
I get
so
that.
I understand
Yeah.
that. You're not just going to have somebody, but you can have analysts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Casey Horney was somebody we were supposed to, I believe, have designated to just special teams, who was the controversial hire from Baylor. But to your point, man, I was watching Alabama Auburn, that brother Jalen Waddle. And you look at Waddle, what he's doing. You look at, around the country, these some of these better teams have just explosive special teams with their athletes, and they can just break a game open with the block on both sides, right? Because it's not even just we're not even just talking about punt game. We're talking about everything, right? And when do we get that back in our program?
Well, 3 quarters through the season, we were at negative yards punt return. So I mean that
tells you, yeah.
That tells you a lot. We're not able to field a fair catch. I mean, things like that, and that was really frustrating, honestly, throughout this year. That was one of the most frustrating portions of the season too.
We'll, guys, as we hear more on the coaching stuff, we'll make more videos and we'll talk more. We'll probably have a live sometime this week to dive in and have a dialogue with y'all about it. My other energy around the coaching staff situation is when you look at how Joe Brady came about to LSU. That wasn't a situation where they went and threw money at something. Mm-hmm. They were smart about it. They went to somebody worked a relationship. And Rob Babers, to your point, those of you who are not listening to the Rodcast or even Longhorn Blitz, they're doing great work. I love Rob B. But Rob was talking about favors that head coaches can get from other teams sometimes. Reaching out to your network of, it's a coaching fraternity, right? Reaching out to other folks and guys that are maybe out of the game or taking a break. Hey, if you were to come back and coach, who are some people you're looking at? Because Joe Brady wasn't nobody knew who Joe Brady was a year ago. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then by summertime, all you heard out of LSU camp from the LSU fans and people that were really dialed in was, this guy has changed our program. Mm-hmm. This guy has changed our offense. They didn't even fire their OC. Mm-hmm. Steve Ernsminger is still there. He's still calling plays. He just said, I'm going to just go ahead and redesign the house. You know what I mean? And work with Joe Burrow, right? But that was a guy they went and found within the New Orleans Saints organization. What are some of the angles that we're working from a networking perspective, whether it's the NFL, whether it's FCS? Get creative. You know what I mean? And it doesn't even have to be that guy's your OC, but think about what Coach O and those guys at LSU did. Because George is getting ready to go through the same thing too, right? They got embarrassed on TV with that offense that they were running, and people are like, you know what? It's time for change. And you're gonna see, because football is 2019, mm-hmm. and you can't roll in. I don't care what conference you're in.
You only drop one spot, by the way.
Well, actually, we can transition,
which is very frustrating to me,
to the other bowl game. So I just want to say the Oklahoma Baylor game. If you didn't know conferences, if you didn't know rankings, and you watched all the conference title games, that you would say that was a very, very strong, if not the strongest conference in terms of the way the opponents play, how clean the game was. Granted, Baylor was, had quarterbacks, going back in and out, back and forth, but the heart that was shown, the decisions that Matt Rule was challenged to make throughout the game to keep his team alive.
And that's why people, you remember people questioned us when we said we were worried about Baylor as opposed to Iowa State at the beginning of the season. Yeah. It's like we said that specifically because of Matt Rule. And he brought in a third string quarterback and
Jacob Zeno
legitimately brought them back in the game. It was very impressive.
But you also, I have to give credit to OU, the 5 times in a row Big 12 champions, which is incredible, and it's frustrating for us, whether you're a Texas fan, whether you're an Iowa State fan, TCU fan, to allow one team to dominate the conference this way is unacceptable for us. But congratulations to them and Lincoln Riley for keeping the party going when he took over for Bob Stoops. But I give OU credit for this. They took away Denzel Mims.
Mm-hmm.
They had a great plan for him. I think he only caught one pass.
I think it got called back.
It got called back. So did he go?
So
he went receptionless. Yeah. So when you look at when they were able to run the football effectively with Kennedy Brooks, and when I say that because Jalen Hurts was making a lot of mistakes, right? Yeah. And he's gonna have to play better if they're gonna have any shot in hell at beating LSU. Because
he's got to play his best game.
Yes, yeah, he does, because he did not play well. But when I say a clean game and it was a good game, you saw plays being made: offense, defense, special teams. And that's in a championship effort and a championship level. And overall, I was just really, really impressed with. I thought they represented our conference well.
I agree.
They really did. So don't listen to what some of these national pundits say, because Baylor's getting ready to get the same thing. We'll start with some of the bowl previews. Yeah. They're playing Georgia in the Sugar Bowl.
Get prepared for if you guys win, Baylor fans, we just didn't care. We just care about the playoffs.
I'm so tired of it. And, they're allowed to just roll into the SEC championship game and get smoked in Georgia.
Only drop one spot. That's what blows my mind. It doesn't matter. They were locked into the.
Well, who would you have put over them? Oregon?
No, because it's SEC Big 12.
I'm talking about they're ranked 5th. Are you talking about? What are you talking about?
I'm just talking about their position. They only dropped one spot after getting smoked. If it wasn't for a late touchdown, they would have only scored 3 points.
Yeah.
They got just embarrassed. Yeah. And it was a home game for them, let's be honest. Mm-hmm. It was a home game.
Which many of their fans left early. Yeah. That's another thing. But let's keep going down the bowl previews. What are some other bowl games that intrigue you? The Georgia-Baylor game is definitely one that intrigues me. You had a hot take about Michigan versus Alabama in the Citrus Bowl.
Well, no, it's not a hot take. I feel Michigan will win this game, and it's only because I want to see that handshake between Harbaugh and Nick Saban at the end of the game.
I'm so happy they're in a bowl together.
Another good bowl game that I'm seeing on the schedule is SMU versus FAU. I know FAU.
Boca Raton Bowl.
Yeah. FAU. I know FAU is going to be without Lane Kiffin, but it's just two teams that had really good seasons.
They had really good seasons,
and they get to face off. I'm excited about that, and a lot of people don't get excited about
And we get to see Shane Buechele, who has set a whole bunch of records at SMU this year, over 30-something touchdown passes this year. Incredible season for Shane Buechele. Thrilled for him.
Mm-hmm. And, of course, the big dog ones, Ohio State versus Clemson. That, I think, is going to be a fantastic game.
We're going to have to do I'm going to do a whole show just for those games, because this is unprecedented, the level of match. We're talking about Clemson, who's won 28 straight games.
Yeah.
13-0 this year. Ohio State, who's been dominant all year, was coming into this weekend number 1 until LSU, did what they did, and Ohio State played closer than expected against Wisconsin and needed the second half to pull it out. But them ending up to Dabo Swinney, Ryan Day. I was watching their interview together on College Game Day this morning on the Selection Show. And I'm just impressed with both of those programs. Mm-hmm. Trevor Lawrence, this is what I'm looking at. Trevor Lawrence versus Justin Fields. Mm-hmm. This rivalry is special between these two guys, because those of you who follow recruiting, depending on service, they were 1-2, 1-2, right? Most, all the other ones had Trevor Lawrence number 1, but then ESPN had Justin Fields number 1. And then they competed against each other, Elite 11. They were 1-2, and then Justin Fields beat him in the opening. And they're both from the state of Georgia. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just one of those things where it's like getting to see them. Justin Fields finishing this season with a 40-1 touchdown to interception ratio. I think we'll see him in New York. Probably have another video where we're talking about the Heisman stuff. We know Joe Burrow's going to win, but I think it's going to be interesting. I do want to show some love to at least the 3 or 4 guys we think may end up in New York and get the trip. And then Trevor Lawrence, who we were very hard on him on this channel for his level of play the first few games of the season. He has stepped it up in a big way. They've come out with the blowtorch to the rest of the ACC, but many have questioned level of competition for Clemson, really, since they beat Texas A&M. Who have they played, right? So those are some things we're really interested to see. And then we get LSU.
But the good thing about them is that they have Dabo Swinney and that coaching staff. I mean, they've been there, done that. And the good thing about it is no one's talking about them. No. So, I mean, that's you don't want to.
No one's talking about them, but there's a reason why LSU turned up the way they. Not that LSU wouldn't have turned up any different, but a buddy of mine who was an LSU fan, different friend, but he was like, when I asked him, I was like, "Hey, how do you feel about playing Clemson? Y'all are number 2 right now." He was like, "No, bro, we're gonna beat the shit out of Georgia to avoid
playing them."
And he was like, "Don't
play
tell
this
me."
Team.
Right? He was like, "Nah, I'd much rather play Oklahoma or Utah in that 4 spot." And he ended up being right when I was talking to him earlier this week. So, and then the other matchup, LSU versus OU. We both think OU's been very disrespected. Mm-hmm. Our conference as a whole, and they represent our conference. I do think LSU should be favored, obviously, and is, it's like we said before, it depends on Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
What Jalen Hurts shows
Jalen
up.
Hurts you get.
Because if they're able to score and keep up, they do play aggressive enough defense to where they can I think they can get a little bit of pressure on Joe Brady. Now, my issue with them is just, some of the cornerback play. I know Motley has stepped it up. Even Trey Brown, who made the play of the game against Baylor by catching the brother on was it flat or whoever it was when he caught him on the last play and they had to kick a field goal. But it's a different animal against Chase, Jefferson, Marshall, and Moss, and Hilaire in the backfield. Like, it is one of the more special offenses we've seen in a while. I don't know if it's the greatest college football offense we've seen. Some people are starting to go there, and I think it's because they watch SEC football so much and they're not used to seeing good offense all the time. And so, this offense coming out of nowhere is like, this is the greatest thing we've ever seen. I'm like, y'all must be forgetting about 2008 OU or 2005 Texas or, we've seen some really, really good offenses over the last few years. But Joe Burrow's balling right now.
Do you think that Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback than Jake Fromm?
Yes.
You do? Okay.
Because of his legs.
I think they're only. I'm talking about passing efficiency. I think they're similar in accuracy.
Jake Fromm sees it better.
Yeah,
he sees it better than Jalen Hurts,
but he doesn't have the touch on it too.
But see, Jake Fromm, there were some balls in the game where he does hit the guy on the sideline over the shoulder, and then there's other balls in the game where he threw it
4 feet over his
head. It's like, bro, that's a touchdown.
So that's what I'm saying is the Georgia game could have been a lot more competitive,
especially at the beginning.
If 2 of their receivers didn't drop 2 passes that were sure-handed touchdowns, and he was accurate, honestly. And
just flat out missed throws.
I feel that Lincoln Riley is going to have a pretty good game plan going against them and trying to get his players into space and get his players because they're an aggressive defense, LSU, and they're a good defense too. Stingley is. So amazing.
If I'm LSU, if I'm Dave Aranda, this is really fun though for me because I'm playing. I can play. I have the people to at least try to attempt to play OU straight up, right? Stingley and CD Lamb's gonna be fun. That's gonna be fun. And now it's not just gonna be straight up, right? Because what LSU's gonna also get to see is where CeeDee Lamb lines up. Mm-hmm. We saw they're going to use orbit motion. They're going to have him in the backfield. It's not just going to be you're going to be put your hands on him at the line of scrimmage. He's going to be in the slot all over the place. So Christian Fulton may have to share some of those responsibilities. They may get him isolated with Flott or what's the other brothers? Corey Stevens at times where he walks up. You never know who could end up on him. Even Grant Delpit, right? That's how much they move CeeDee Lamb around and some of the other weapons. I think they're going to have to use some of the other younger guys to get some of that speed on the field. Ramble, Hazelwood, even Weiss, who we saw a little bit. Like, I think it would be all hands on deck for OU. But if I'm LSU, I'm also saying Patrick Queen, you're the spy. You know, kind of what they did to us with Sam. I have Chason on the edge. Now, that's also going to be a good matchup with Chason and Swinson and some of those other guys. Like, there's some good matchups in this game that I think people are just going to dismiss and think LSU's going to roll. And LSU might roll.
They could.
If Jalen Hurts comes out and turns the football over like he did against Baylor.
They're done.
Yeah.
They're done.
But if he's solid, they're able to run the football because they're not throwing it all over the place. They're going to see some formations and some things that they have not seen before that Lincoln Riley will have in his bag for them. So they better put some respect on Lincoln Riley and those guys coming into that game.
And that defense, when apparently if people start talking trash about how garbage they are and they hear it for a whole month, I'm pretty sure they're going to be focused to play this team because we were just saying that their defense was kind of, a lot of our fans were saying their defense is nothing when we were going to play them. In only a week, they turned around and smacked us in the face. You know, so don't give them that locker room material, you know, the bulletin board material, because they'll be ready. And I think that you know, a 10-point underdog is a little bit of smack in the face. I would say a 6.5 point underdog.
Well, it's been a lot of disrespect thrown a lot of ways, and we'll get to some other bowl games. I know we didn't touch on A&M versus Oklahoma State. You know, there's a lot of injuries there. And
unfortunately, they don't have Thailand and
but there's some other games as we continue to break it down. But I'm excited for Texas Utah. I'm glad we get to face an opponent like this. I'm most excited for the kids, you know, and getting to play a high level opponent as somebody where you know they've been so consistent all year. So you can't come in there with your, slow start BS and be off track, right? Like, you're going to have to put your head down and execute against a Utah team.
Yep.
Right. But
a well-coached team.
Well-coached team. Great opportunity for us. Guys, we'll be back later this week with more content. And as news continues to break around the program, we'll be here to discuss it all. But excited to hear from you guys in the comments, your thoughts, your initial reactions to our bowl, other bowls. If you're fans of other teams and you have different opinions, chime in, let us know. Guys, horns always up.